What's going on, everyone? It's Adam and Craig with Grandstand Golf. In this show, we're looking at snake drafts for DFS DraftKings for the 2021 Masters. Craig, we're looking at rankings, some picks, some fades, some reaches, that kind of thing. Snake drafts are kind of new to DFS and to DraftKings, but when they kind of came on, you're all over it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm all over it, but I definitely enjoy it. It gives a new aspect, I think, to the DFS week for these big tournaments where you
Yeah.
really just can't get enough. Do you want to run through what it is
Yeah,
called
so
snake
I mean,
drafts?
they're kind of new, but when you look at the snake draft, it's kind of the traditional fantasy draft format. Like you get 11 of your friends, there's 12 of you, you're doing baseball, basketball, football, whatever it is, you're drafting your roster and you're with them for a season long. That's kind of what it is, but for a tournament long. It's available on DraftKings for 3, 6, or 12 player contests. And there's a few changes when you play traditional DFS and you play a snake draft. There's no ownership concerns at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
You get one golfers on one person's team. That's it.
The one thing you will realize is the people who are, talked about as being highly owned, they're just straight up going to be higher on the list. Like you're going to have to take them higher than their ranking is if you're looking at, or than their salary is if you're looking at the regular
And that's
contests.
actually a good tidbit if you are playing kind of DFS as well. If you see when guys are going early, that usually means they're going to be higher owned in kind of those big GPP type
Yeah,
contests.
it's a good finger on the pulse of the public. And so just on that, I would say the ADP is followed fairly closely. You will see guys getting jumped on. Usually it's the guys that you're hearing buzz about
Yeah,
anyways.
for sure.
But then the last thing to me, and this is sort of what I found when I have played these, is that you kind of have to have a blend of cash game strategies and
Hmm.
GPP strategies, probably leaning more towards the cash strategies. Like
Right.
it's really like, if you think about it, in a 90-person field like this, say you're doing a 12-person, you're going to get a lot of those players drafted.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is figure out who do I think from these lower players are likely to make cuts? Like
For
you
sure.
don't
Yeah.
need you don't need to pick the person who has the potentially the best chance of winning from down there. You
Yeah.
want safe guys low. I think that would be one of the major differences that I find from
Yeah.
large GPP
Kind of
play.
like DFS, regular DFS. The first goal is to get all six through to the weekend. That eliminates, if you're in a 12-man snake draft, that might eliminate 8 rosters. It might eliminate 10 rosters, but you need to get six through to the weekend. And that's that you set yourself up for a high finish with that.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially makes it so that you're maybe playing against one or two other teams for that first, and you've almost guaranteed yourself a cash.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to look at first round rankings, how they currently are. I mean, we're midday Tuesday, how they currently are on DraftKings, their ADP, and how our rankings differ from that, Craig. So, do you want to kind of show what it currently is and then talk about your top 12?
Yeah, so I mean, this is sort of the full everything at you thrown at you at
Yeah,
once. Really, we're gonna go through the first round rankings because you're gonna have to do some work yourself. A lot of these ones are obvious, like all these guys are gonna get drafted. It's just a matter of preference, you know.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
looking at all good choices here. So I'll just quickly run through what the order they have. They've got Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, Rahm, Spieth, Bryson DeChambeau, Rory, Xander, Patrick Cantlay, Colin Morikawa, Patrick Reed, Webb
Yeah.
Simpson, and Tony Finau.
The,
Um,
the one thing I would say that's interesting there is kind of the ADP between Bryson and Rory. It's a big gap. So you kind of think
mhm.
those top five guys are getting switched around a lot, but they're usually going in the top five.
And then there's sort of a tier. Rory, Xander, and Cantlay. They
Yeah.
all are essentially you can pick and choose amongst there in terms of the order they may come off the board.
Right. Okay,
So
Craig. So
so
how do your rankings differ from? I see you got Rom up top. Rom's your number one.
I was gonna
And
say, yeah. So essentially, both of us ended up with DJ and Rom in our top two,
yeah.
which they have Rom three. So we bumped Rom up. I bumped him all the way up to one, and I actually had Bryson at two. But
Okay.
then I was thinking about it more. If I had two in a snake draft, I have Bryson as my one and done. I like his chances potentially to win the tournament.
Sure.
But I think DJ potentially provides a bit of a safer, like I think he might be a safer
Yeah.
top 10 than
Yeah.
Bryson is. So from a snake draft point of view, where like really what I'm trying to get is my 6 of 6 through and then as high of finishes I can safely count on, I
Yeah.
like DJ a little bit better. But still to me Rom's number one.
Yeah. So I think DJ, I mean, defending champ, his form the last couple tournaments aren't great, but he almost like he just missed the match play. He backed out of the Valero. I think his form early in 2021 is kind of the golfer that DJ is. Like he is the world number one. He's a dominant golfer. He played well here. He's played well here previously when it's not
Five
in
straight
November.
top tens.
Yeah, like he's just to me, he's don't complicate it. Like you said, his top 5% percentage here is outstanding. So DJ's number one for me.
Yeah, so essentially, I think the first question on your board, you've got Spieth. They have Spieth, which seems high to me at 4, and you've got him at 3. So you're even higher yourself on Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, I almost had Bryson there. Then I went with Spieth. Spieth, I think, is ranked 9th in DFS salary. So this just shows how potentially chalky he's going to be, or how popular he's going to be. But I mean, he's playing great right now. He's coming off that win. He plays Augusta probably better than anyone, maybe anyone. I mean, anyone in recent history, maybe not Tiger.
I was going to say, if you start saying anyone ever, I think a Mr. Nicholas and a Mr. Woods are going to have
for sure.
Their 11 combined green jackets might have something to say about that.
But in the last 6 years, it's been outstanding how well he plays this course. He's in good form. The other thing I think that I really focus on too is all these guys are likely to make the cut. What do they do with that? What are their birdie opportunities and fantasy points, DraftKings points? I talk about that all the time. Just because you finish third doesn't mean you're going to be third in DraftKings points. And I think Spieth and Bryson, that's why I have them above JT, is they just bring kind of that volatility, but they bring birdies. And that's why I like Spieth and Bryson.
Yeah, so I think I'll jump down my list. I feel like I'm fairly high on Spieth, but I have him at 8. So to me, having Jordan Spieth, I'm very high on Patrick Cantlay. I have him at 7, and I think Colin Morikawa has a fairly good shot to win this thing. So to me, having him that high still, I feel like I am giving Spieth respect. But obviously, the betting markets and the DraftKings ADP and everyone is even higher on him than I am. So to me, I'm not going to end up with a lot of Spieth in snake drafts, I don't think.
Okay, so let's talk about Justin Thomas, because he fell down both our rankings. Why did he fall down yours?
So to me, I'm high on Bryson, I would say. So essentially, it's 2 people jumped him on mine. It's Rahm and Bryson. I could easily have those 2, 1 and 2 on my board. To me, I have Rahm as he's sort of my clear 1, and then I have DJ and Bryson, 2A and 2B.
Yeah. For me, it's just kind of splitting hairs. I like JT, but like I said, I kind of like the volatility and upside of Spieth and Bryson.
Yeah, and I guess getting a little bit more into JT himself. So I think the one problem I have with JT is the driver. So obviously his approach play is better. I think probably the best of anyone, or potentially the best of anyone. So that kind of bumps him up, but then the driver holds him back a bit. Yeah. Whereas I think all of these other guys, say from Cantlay upwards, they are all elite drivers of the golf ball. So that's where JT gets a little bit of a hit. It's not like he can't be on on any given week, but it's less of something he can just rely on being there for him.
Yeah. Okay, so the next tier here is kind of Rory, Xander, and Cantlay. And you know what? I kind of just agreed right with the rankings. I kept them as is, but you shuffled a little bit. Cantlay, Xander. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, so essentially I just bumped Xander over Rory. I would be fairly happy with either of them. I think Rory obviously has the history. He's, I think, 6 of 7 top 10s here. Yeah. 6 of his last 7. But Xander, to me, I like the form. He's second in strokes gained total for the 2020-2021 season. So I think just because his scorching hot form cooled off a little bit, I think people are forgetting how good he has played this season. But he also has a good Masters history. So if if it was just the form and he had a questionable history, then potentially Rory would still be ahead of him. But right. I just think all 3 of these guys have all the tools. Rory, to me, is... he has potentially the best game of any of them, but there's a little bit more question marks around.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mostly agree. I think Rory, I mean, he is still kind of, it's a hard guy to place. He's kind of just below that tier for me, but I think he can go out and win this. Absolutely. No problem. And then
I
Xander's
mean, I
just,
could have Rory at the top of this list if we had seen different things in the last couple of weeks, you know.
no, for
So
sure.
to me, this is almost as low. I could maybe have him below Cantlay, but this is almost as low as I'm
Yeah.
ever gonna let Rory fall on my
I had
rankings.
Rory as my one and done for the November Masters. Like this course is perfect for him. But moving on, sorry, 9 through 12, the last four here. I'm gonna go quickly through my list. I have Finau, Webb Simpson, Victor Hovland, and Morikawa. So Victor Hovland was not in the top 12. I bumped him in. I actually took Reed out. So I went Finau because I guess Master Sister, he's fifth year, he's 10th year, and then he had a poor showing in November. I don't mind that. He has the distance, he gets those eagles and birdies opportunities. I still am pretty excited about Finau's chances at Augusta long term, and that no reason for not in 2021. Webb Simpson, a guy I've talked about in length, so I just like him this year. I think he's really, really well rounded. And then Hovland Morikawa. I mean, Hovland's just a little bit more exciting to me. His major showing, he's kind of in that, 12th, 13th, kind of 20th. He's a low am here. He didn't get the November invite, but he was low am here previously. I think Hovland just has a little bit more upside. Well, Morikawa won the PGA
Yeah,
10 this
I
year.
hate guys that win majors
No,
when
but
they're
but when you look outside that,
yeah, yeah.
he doesn't have good finishes. So Morikawa, and we'll talk about this on our Wednesday night show, but Morikawa, I'm a little hesitant of.
Tapping the brakes.
Yeah, a little tough break.
So I'm the opposite. I think I've kept Morikawa. I potentially so I slid Brooks Koepka in here.
Yes.
He's not on the DraftKings. He's not on yours. You know, there's all kinds of I think speculation floating around as to what kind of form we're going to see from him. But as far as I'm concerned, if Brooks Koepka is playing and it's a major, I've got a pretty high opinion of him in terms of his
Yeah.
chances. You have spoken about his potential at this course before. I think his game is well suited. He's got he's got the distance. When it just seems like when he needs to turn it on, he has this gear and he's totally unfazed by moments and all that. So I have kept up there. I've kept Morikawa up there.
1 second.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
The one reason I don't have Brooks is this is your top golfer. This is your number one golfer, and I don't think it's quite worth the risk when you can get guys like Hovland or Simpson or Finau to risk it on Brooks. I know that's a little bit crazy, but I'm just saying maybe you like a little bit safer.
See, I hear you. I just think the risks are different.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, I think Finau has just as much risk as Brooks. It's just different kind of risks, you know? So I do hear what you're saying. I feel like I have properly accounted for the risks associated with Brooks, but
Okay.
time will tell. Time will tell. We don't. I mean, with the injuries, there's just a whole big question mark that we can only speculate on. But I almost slid him above Morikawa, but I didn't. I think I potentially have a slightly higher opinion of Cullen's game. To me, it's just about the putter. Like, you know, he doesn't have elite distance, but
Good enough.
his approach game is so good,
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
course is it's set up for someone that can hit to, you know, the precise yardages. So. I just think he's one of these people. As soon as he figures out Augusta, he's going to be a contender every year. And so if that happens, this is his first April Masters. If that happens now,
Exactly.
then
Exactly.
he's someone who has won in first before. But then just closing out mine, I've got Patrick Reed there. You've kept him out. To me, he just overperforms at Augusta all the time. And then Webb Simpson, I'm a little bit lower on, but you know, it's just because I bumped Brooks up there. I don't really have a huge strong take between Patrick Reed and Webb, and then Finau and Hovland are probably my next guys in after that.
So we plan for this video to be about 8 minutes. Craig spent 8 minutes just on his first round alone. We're going to zip through, Craig. Let's talk about our biggest fade, maybe from what we saw of the rankings. Who's our biggest fade? So moving down my draft board, I'm moving Sungjae Im down. And I'm a pretty big Sungjae Im fan, but he had that T2 finish in November. Currently in DraftKings, he's 14.7. So that's just at the start of round 2. You could even reach for him at the end of round 1. I think that's too early. I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on Sungjae Im. Let's see how he responds to an April Masters before we just kind of put him as a top person or second best person in our roster. Where I would consider him, probably end of round 2. You know, if I have DJ, then I back it up with Sanjay. I'm pretty happy with that, or a
So you're
Rom
going
and
to
a
put him
Sanjay.
behind a few more of those vets, essentially.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
End of round 2, start of round 3. That's where I would kind of be comfortable with Sanjay.
Yeah, and I've got Phil here as a fade. To me, it's just I it's not that I don't think Phil is going to have a huge advantage from course knowledge and the fact, I mean, the course it favors left-handers. That's just a
Yeah.
fact. People can argue that all they want, but it's pretty clear. So he's going in the late third, early fourth kind of range, and to me that's just too high.
It's risky for
I'm
late
not saying
third.
you don't draft him, but to me, I'm gonna start to consider him at five or six, fifth or sixth round.
Yeah. And obviously those rounds are for a 12
Yeah,
person, a
yeah,
12 player draft.
yeah.
Okay, so who am I reaching for? Who do I see out there that seems a little bit too low in the ADP? I went with Jason Day. So he's currently 29.3 on ADP, which is about mid third round. I just think, okay, so he's played in 10 Masters. He withdrew in 2012 and he missed the cut in 2020. Besides that, the 8 times he's played, he's been T28 or better, including 6 top 20s. Like, he is a real horse for course. He plays this course very well. His short game is spectacular around here. I think he can handle the quick green. So I would be more comfortable. I was going to be kind of like 20 to 25 range, but I put 23 up there, kind of end of round 2. And, a guy like I could possibly reach above Sungjae Im. I don't think that's absolutely crazy that he finishes
Mhm.
better than Sungjae Im here. He's just kind of the veteran that you see sneak up the leaderboard at Augusta through the weekend.
Yeah, no, I think Day's a good play here. I mean, his results here speak for themselves, I think. But I'm going Mackenzie Hughes. I did a little bit of miscalculations on here, but he's 65th in ADP, so that would
Mhm.
be, maybe mid round 6.
Right.
But I'm still higher on him. I was just looking through the rankings, and I would move him up. There's people they have
Yeah.
above him in ADP that I just think Mackenzie Hughes is the perfect type of person to have as a safer cut maker that
Yeah.
does not necessarily have the winning potential maybe that like he's well behind a Dylan Fratelli or a Munoz
Right.
or like guy like it's not that I don't think Mackenzie Hughes is any guarantee to make the cut or anything like that. It's just that we're talking about people that are like we're drafting some guys because of their upside. And
Hmm.
I just think that's a mistake. I want a guy like Mackenzie Hughes who I know he's going to grind through his short
Yeah.
game and he's going to squeeze everything he can out of his first couple rounds to try to make the cut. And so
Yeah.
that's exactly the kind of guy I like in there at the tail end of my draft.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's a perfect last man into a roster. He does feel a little bit safer just because his short game putting keeps him in it.
And,
You know?
we've spoken about this with a few different guys over the course of the week, but I think he is someone who plays hard courses well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, that is our snake draft for DraftKings for the Masters tournament. If you want to draft with us, join our Discord. We haven't really talked about our Discord this week. We do have a Discord channel where we have a lot of good kind of chatter in there. There's people helping other people. Link is below if you want to kind of throw it. Hey, I'm doing a draft right now. Craig and I, if we have time, we'll hopefully hop in it.
Yeah, for sure. Good luck, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. See ya.